Tell us a little about what is the National Security Strategy Summit and why did you decide to have it now?
Yeah, a few months ago, I took on the role of chairman of the Gold Institute for International Studies, and I've been a supporter of them for over a decade. And we got talking amongst ourselves, a small group. We have about 30 fellows that are part of it. About 2 months ago, and about 6 weeks ago or so, we decided let's hold our first conference here, where we're at right now in downtown Washington D.C. On national security. And so, what I wanted to drive this particular conference, we're here in the midst of it today. I wanted to drive it by actually writing a national security strategy for the United States of America, and it's great. And one of my colleagues, one of my good friends, and a constitutional lawyer, brilliant guy, Adam Lovinger, was really the principal author. But we had a small team to do it, and this is the actual document itself.
So this is a working group.
Oh yeah, this is and our goal with this, and it's a guide, like I say, for the direction of the United States. There hasn't been a national security strategy written really since about 2017. So our nation kind of goes based on executive orders and directives and campaign objectives and things like that. Donald J. Trump won the election. He put out a whole bunch of different things that they want to achieve. And in order for the rest of the government to have a clear understanding and direction, other than trying to catch everything that Trump has said or written about or signed off on, you create in government, in the bureaucracy, you create these documents. One is the National Security Strategy. That's the principal vision for the direction that the country goes. It is not a bipartisan document. A lot of people misunderstand that. It is a very partisan document because it's based on the President of the United States and the mandate that, in this case, President Trump won by. And so he won because he said certain things that the American people wanted. That's what the strategy is about.
Well, and this reminds me of, just to put it in people's perspective, and I remember serving as an intel officer, and you read these documents, you understand this is the strategy as dictated by the commander in chief. Right. It's like when George Kennan set out the long memo, and he was over at State Department, but that was the genesis, the nucleus of the strategy of containment of international communism, because international communism was viewed as the greatest threat at the time post Cold War. And so the idea was, are we gonna go to war with the Soviet Union? Are we gonna fight them militarily? What's the plan? And the option he said was containment comes in of, we're not going to fight it head on, but we're going to contain it to where it is now. Now, obviously, the threat has changed. So just briefly, what do you define in this national security strategy document is the main threat today? Yeah,
the most important and the main threat that we are facing today is subversion from within.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's 100%. It's so clear. And here we are sitting here this week, and the Director of National Intelligence, who could not be more perfect for this particular role in this moment in U.S. history, Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat, ran for Democrat presidential, was a presidential, in the primaries there for the Democrat Party, was chastised, was pretty much thrown out of her party.
Was called a Russian asset.
Was called a Russian asset. And so she's like in this perfect position to be the face for this subversion, and talking about the subversion of our nation. And she's been just so courageous here the last couple of days in what she's done. But that's the principal threat. The second and third components of it are those that are the alliance that's behind that threat. So there is a external alliance that's behind that threat, and that's this sort of strange bedfellows, right? The CCP, Russia, Iran, all these others who have made statements over a long period of time, decades, in some cases almost 100 years, where they've recognized the strengths of the United States of America, and they know that they can't take us on head on, right? I mean, that was the result of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union. So what they did was they started to infiltrate our system, and they've been doing that for a long time. And it's very clear. There's all kinds of examples, and we're talking about that today. The third component of this is really, how does the rest of the world see America and the regional partners? And what we have in the audience with us, we have over 50 ambassadors. We have a third of the world here that's sitting in this conference today that are hungry to understand the complexity of what is happening here in the United States right now, because we're trying to explain it. The president, Tulsi Gabbard and others are trying to explain exactly what's going on in our country. And it's not easy. I mean, you and I, guys like us and others in the world of social media have been following a lot of this, but it is still very complex. But in order for the country to kind of survive, there is this thing we call a constitutional order. And the constitutional order is really, we the people. We're the ones that stand up and demand accountability of our government. And that's what's starting to happen even more so now. And that's a big, big deal. But we address that and we put into the perspective of how do we move forward, into the future, and things change over time.
So looking at it from that perspective, we saw the DNI's release yesterday. We saw this incredible press conference. We've never seen anything like that. I'm sure in all your years of service, you've never seen anything like that.
When we use the word unprecedented.
Completely from the pulpit of the White House, from the pulpit, from that, and it is a pulpit, right? The pulpit of the press briefing room to have a director of national intelligence say that a previous president was engaged in treasonous conspiracy. What steps then do you take next to restore the constitutional order? Yeah,
I think that one of the things that we've seen is, this discussion about a strike force and all that. The American people are losing their patience. I know that, and we can see it, and we can tell from your audience, and certainly from a lot of the people that I talk to on a daily basis. So there's not a lot of patience for long investigations. The evidence is clear. The evidence is there. We've had IG investigations. We've had lots of FOIA releases. We've had, legal cases like my own that have shown additional conspiracy and additional treasonous behavior in some cases, and certainly the various reports that have come out from Congress. The one that Tulsi exposed yesterday from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. I think that was Devin Nunes's report.
Yes.
I mean, so there's a lot of evidence out there, and
I'll even throw one out. The name of whichever senior official of the Obama White House that leaked your private conversations to David Ignatius of the Washington Post, that is a criminal act. Right. That is FISA-derived intelligence. That is top secret SI, all the compartments.
It's egregious.
And walks right over to the Washington Post. Worse than anything that that people accuse Assange and all these other Chelsea Manning, Bradley Manning, whatever, of doing. And yet that name, Susan Rice, comes to mind, has never once been indicted, identified, or charged. Just clear criminal act.
That the direction and the speed that we are going to have to move, and this is really where only the president can do that. The president of the United States, I think, is going to have to sit there with his team and sit there and go, okay, folks, here's what we now know. There cannot be any more of these. Well, we'll see what happens, or I'm going to leave this up to the Attorney General and to the Department of Justice. There is a justice system that we do have that must be put into high gear, but we have to clean this up. And I think only the president can do this. So he's going to have to pull that team together, get them in the Oval Office, and sit there and go, okay, what are the steps that we must take in order to satisfy what it is that just happened to the country? Because Lee Smith wrote a great book called The Permanent Coup.
Of course.
And when we think about 2016 and 2017, that was an attempted coup. When we think about 2020 and 2021, that was a coup. The rigging of an election. Then now we talk about 2024 and 2025. That was our sort of counter-revolution. That was our way of the American people saying enough is enough. And we fought tooth and nail in that campaign season to get Donald Trump over the victory line once again. And he took, he took a bullet to the head because of it. But here we are in 2025. Now, this is 6 months into this administration, and the coup still continues. We're still finding subversives inside. We call them fellow travelers, right? In the national security strategy, we describe them as fellow travelers who have taken on the Marxist, communist, socialist headgear, and they're wearing it in the trenches of the deep state still. And there are people that are still being fired, still being discovered. And that's just in the institution of government.
Joe, but